fit the legend. The Jim Capers is both the story and the legend in one.
This is about a lot of the guys who got to this point you won't find in the movies or in the books.
We're working behind their lines, and every chance we get, we ambush them.
Supposedly there was nuclear weapons.
The chances of him getting out of there alive, 1 in 10 million.
Many historians wondered what I found on that aircraft. The helicopter lifted off about 6 feet and crashed. And it was like the hand of God reached up and drank the helicopter. Now I can talk about it.
If I had to do it all over again, I'd still volunteer.
And we are back. I'm Chris Evans, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, and very honored tonight to have Major James Capers with us. Thank you for joining us tonight, sir. We've got.
Thank you.
We've got.
You got
Bull.
a typo. It's Capers.
Oh, you know what? That's on me. Let me fix that. Bull, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll just go right around. We'll go down to you next after this, Bill, then Doc, and then with the general. My apologies.
No worries. So first of all, it's an honor to be here. I'm sitting amongst heroes, and it's a little overwhelming, and I appreciate being here. I'm a retired Marine and was Panama, first Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan, and did some time on the Hill as punishment. But right now, the focus of effort is really on Major Capers, and we'll get into detail about what an amazing, incredible warrior and true American he really is.
Yeah, and Bull's being very humble. Y'all may remember the iconic photo top left and in the middle on top of him taking down Saddam Hussein when we took Baghdad. So he's in good company. Absolutely. Bill?
Hey, it's an honor to be on here with so many great American warriors. I'm an Iraq veteran, Navy SEAL, and I got a couple of my good, amazing American brothers with me.
Hey, my name's Will Jimeno. I'm a Navy veteran, and I'm a retired Port Authority Police of New York and New Jersey police detective. I'm one of the two officers that survived underneath the World Trade Center. They made that film about us called World Trade Center, and it's an honor to be here with so many great Americans. And I just want to say, Major Capers, you and everybody here that has served as a child is what inspired me to serve our nation, coming from a different country in Colombia. And God bless you guys. And I hope we have many more examples like you to guide our future generations for our great country.
Hi, everybody. Melina, Army combat veteran. I'm a writer for Law Enforcement Today, and part of what I do is I focus on supporting the veteran and law enforcement community. Especially in recent years, I've been trying to put a positive spin on the law enforcement community as well, because it's been a rough last few years. So I am here to observe today. I won't be speaking due to legal reasons, but I want to hear the story, and I'll be more than honored to write about Major Capers.
Appreciate you being here. By the way, Kyle Reyes is a friend of mine, and I believe Doc Pete's friends with Kyle as well.
Yeah.
Doc, you're up.
Yeah, Doc Chambers, Pete Chambers. I started out as a grunt in 1983 under Reagan, and then I got out under Brandon a couple years ago. I was a special operations flight surgeon, but went to the Q course. They you keep you in long enough to let you do a lot of stuff. So, but sir, I'm Major Capers. I'm just proud to be here with you. I've worked among the gathering of Eagles, great men like you, and I'm just glad to see that you made it out alive.
Amen. And last but not least, General Vallely.
Well, Chris, thank you for inviting me to this forum today. I'm just absolutely appreciative, and especially to be able to meet Major Capers. I graduated from West Point in 1961, My first tour was with the 82nd Airborne at the height of the Russian-U.S. Very tumultuous period in the early 60s. Then from Germany, from the cold winters of Germany, I went to Vietnam, several tours there, and I ended up my last 20 years in special operations at a fairly high level. And my last duty station was commanding General U.S. Army Pacific out in Honolulu. So it's a pleasure to be here with a lot of brave men, and that's what it is. We're brothers in everything that we do, whether it's the Trade Center or Armed Forces serving overseas or doing what you're doing now, Chris. And that's why we need to be together, be strong today, because we still have a battle to save America.
And very, very well said, General. So before we get into the combat scenario where Major James Capers just displayed unimaginable heroism, General, please share with our audience, what was your last active duty combat deployment?
Mine?
Yeah.
The one I told you about?
Yes, sir.
Well, I was requested. I was 72 years old, and I was requested by 10 Syrian generals who defected from Bashar Assad in 2012 to form the Free Syrian Army. So I was contacted by my Middle East liaison, Colonel Najjar, and he said, the generals want you to come over and advise them on taking down Bashar Assad. I get all these names mixed up once in a while. So flew into Istanbul, then down to southern Turkey, where I met 12 of the generals, and then we planned to go into Aleppo, into Syria. At that time, the second largest city in Syria, but it was completely controlled by the Free Syrian Army at that time, and our objective was for me to advise them how to take down Bashar Assad. And so we went into Aleppo. I went in with 400 men with the typical Toyota trucks that you see, with all the guns in the back and the 40 millimeters and so on. So we went in, and then on the way back out, Assad sent his Air Force to bomb us and destroy us. So we had to go lights out Major Capers for about 80 kilometers back to Turkey. But the key thing on something like that at my age, it's you're not in shape like the young 20 and 30-year-olds, but they took good care of me. Of course, Obama, I requested air support from Obama, and he wouldn't give it to us. And so therefore, you see that went on until this past few months when they got a new takeover in Syria. So that was my last combat mission.
And just to clarify, you were 72 years old.
Right. Yeah.
Woo!
That's absolutely amazing. So, Bull, if it's okay with you, I want to pull up that deck that you sent me. But actually, before I do that, I'm pretty sure I speak for everybody over the age of 35, 40. I don't know that there's anybody who has not seen this image and this poster. And that was Major Capers as well. So I guesstimate anybody 35 plus years old has seen that in the past. Absolutely iconic. I don't know how else to describe it. So, Bull, walk us through the slide deck that you sent for Phu Vietnam. I think you're on mute, Dave. David, yeah. Bull.
I knew Phu
Got it.
Okay.
All right. Apologize. The dogs were barking, so I just didn't want to drown everybody out. So
No
first of
worries.
all, thank you for pulling this up. And just so people understand, this was based upon witness statements. We had an illustrator. We were able to commission an illustrator, thanks to donations to UAP, to recreate basically what happened at Phu Loc. And, as I tell people, that if you condensed all of my combat tours into like one ball, like it wouldn't sit like 1 minute as to what Major Capers went through in Vietnam. His heroism is incredible. So let's walk through this. We'll go to the first slide or the next slide, please. All right. So I see this is an older deck. Major Capers was a platoon commander with 3rd Force Reconnaissance. He actually was a sergeant prior to deploying. When they deployed, they elevated him to be a staff sergeant and platoon leader. And after multiple combat tours, they recognized his incredible leadership and his tactical prowess. And I was able to talk to some of his Marines, and they just said that Major Capers had this, or at the time, 2nd Lieutenant Capers had this amazing sixth sense to where they never lost a battle. They were never ambushed. And he was just known as an incredible warrior and hero. And he received the Battlefield Commission. And why that's so amazing is that I think it's less than 0.05% of all Marines who served in Vietnam were recognized with the Battlefield Commission. And he was one of the very few. So his team Broadminded, they were tasked with doing pretty much a screening mission to do reconnaissance to identify the attack routes into a North Vietnamese regimental size headquarters. So they had 9 Marines initially, and it was a 4-day mission. They lost one of their Marines with a headshot, and Major Capers medevaced them out. They were engaged in many different firefights leading up to the final day. But the final day, April 3rd, 1967, he had accomplished his mission. They identified the best way to attack, and they were about to turn it over to a battalion. And what ended up happening was Capers was tasked with being a part of that lead attack and going back over the same routes that he had already conducted reconnaissance for and knew the enemy would be waiting. And he challenged those orders. And what ended up happening was his better judgment was overruled. And they're like, hey, get out there and lead the attack. And so Capers turned to his Marines and said, look, this one's not going to be pretty. Anybody who doesn't want to join me, I understand. And every one of his Marines was like, we'll follow you to hell and back. And that's exactly what happened. So let's go to the next slide. I think the next slide sort of captures Capers questioning the orders and realizing what a terrible mission that was going to be. And just so you know, that's King. That was Major Capers' war dog that went with him everywhere. And only the dog handler and Capers could even touch this dog because it was an absolute ferocious warrior that had identified enemy and actually engaged himself. Next slide. So Capers leads this attack, and not surprisingly, they were ambushed. The equivalent of daisy-chained claymore mines exploded around his patrol, and an overwhelming amount of enemy force engaged. Capers' war dog was killed instantly. He credits the dog with perhaps keeping him alive, but at the same time, he sustained 17 shrapnel wounds and tore open his abdomen, broke his legs, and he was in a bad situation right there. And pretty much all his Marines realized that they probably weren't going to get out of that situation. But Capers rallied them and said, hell, we're not dying on this freaking trail. And what he did was he grabbed the 2 Marines closest to him. Next slide. And he attacked. He countered the enemy while the most severely wounded Marines started to extract back to a landing zone. And Capers called in air, he called in mortars, called in artillery, was in a very serious firefight. And it went on for quite some time as people were extracting. And next slide. Yeah, this is just sort of identify how, Capers was critically wounded. His dog was killed. It obviously was a real, very emotionally challenging issue. Obviously, anybody who has dogs, you know how, like Marines get wounded, but a dog, that's pretty serious. So next slide. So Capers realizing the situation was bad. He decides, we can't just sit here, and he decides to engage the enemy and take on the offensive. And anybody who's been on the receiving end of artillery or been in defense, that sucks. But when you're in the offense, now you actually have an opportunity to engage and to have some sort of control of the situation. Next slide. So for nearly an hour, Capers was engaged with the enemy, and we're talking close combat. We're talking about hand grenade range, and I don't care how strong you are, you're not chucking a hand grenade, more than 20 meters or so, and he was fully engaged with these 2 other Marines. Eventually, the enemy decided to withdraw, and at that point, Capers decides to extract with his 2 other Marines. Next slide. While he was back at the LZ, he started getting bandaged up, And they even gave him shots of morphine, and he's telling everybody to extract, to include making sure that all the equipment gets on board the helicopter and his wounded dog, or dead dog at the time, King. So next slide, as he's being dealt with, the enemy decides to reattack. And Capers, who now, he's bleeding profusely, he gets shot twice, and he decides to take it upon himself, and he's engaging the enemy and to where he runs out of 5.56 ammo with his M16, and he draws out his 9mm, which that's a whole separate story, how he had a Browning 9mm in combat, and he re-engages the enemy. And, he's credited with taking plenty of lives, even with his 9mm. So again, I don't care how good you are with a pistol, that's pretty close range. Next slide. That eventually the enemy withdraws again. They realize they're not going to take out Capers, and 2 Marines have to come out of the helicopter to get him on board because he can't even walk at this point, and he's lost so much blood. Next slide. So they get him on the helicopter, and the helicopter's just overloaded. They've got too many Marines, too much equipment, and Capers wasn't going to get rid of his dog. And so he just says, leave me behind. And he goes to jump out of the helicopter because he can't get off the ground. And the crew chief grabs him by his dewskier, holds him to the strut. And Capers, as he's told me before, he was just sitting, because like, what the hell are you thinking? And his thought was, look, it was better to lose 1 Marine than to have all of my Marines lose their lives. And that 1 Marine was himself. So he was willing to sacrifice his own life for his Marines. Eventually, as he's sitting here, he's praying to God to get out of there. Big gust of wind comes up. Next slide. And the helicopter actually takes off. Now, where this is not actually accurate is that the weather was pretty bad, and they weren't even sure if they were going to make it back to Fubai. But they did make it back. And next slide is sort of, I think I've got this in the background, it's recognizing that Capers was definitely deserving of the Medal of Honor. And what was critical here is that as Capers was recovering in the hospital and all his wounded Marines were there, Major General Hockmuth, the commanding general of 3rd Marine Division, talks to all his wounded Marines, hears this incredible story, and is so overwhelmed with Capers' actions in Phu Loc that he actually kissed him on his forehead and he says, your actions are deserving of the Medal of Honor, and we're going to make sure this happens. So you would think, end of story. Unfortunately, General Hockmuth, shortly thereafter, dies in a helicopter crash. And there begins the saga or the battle for Major Capers' Medal of Honor. So we go into the details of what happened there, but I'll pause now because I've probably been running my suck too long and turn it back to you, Chris.
No, that's absolutely amazing information, Bull, and really appreciate that. I've got questions for everybody else on the panel. I want to go to the General first because General Vallely did 3 combat tours to Vietnam. I can only imagine what you saw in Vietnam, General, but Major Capers' actions, I mean, it's hard for somebody to comprehend like myself who's never been in a combat situation. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, General.
Well, I actually only had 2 tours in Vietnam, Chris.
My fault.
But anyhow, Major Capers, I was in Benoit down in 3rd Corps when you were up there in Phu Loc. But I had worked with the Marines in 1967, so maybe somewhere we passed by each other, but I was there at the same time you were. But it's an incredible story, and I served on the Congressional Committee about 5 years ago, and they printed a whole big book of all the Medal of Honor winners. So I think, Chris, what we have to do is make sure, and I'm sure David, that you know what has to happen now to flow up to make sure this is done. But I'll be happy to do everything that I can to ensure that this award is presented to Major Capers, because it absolutely is well deserved, and it's a great story.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. I have a letter, by the way, General, that Bull's group put together for President Trump. There's quite a few people who've signed on to it.
I'll sign it too.
That's amazing. Doc Pete, I want to go to you next just because you're a trauma flight surgeon.
Yeah.
I know you looked into Major Capers stuff and had some very kind words to say, but as a trauma flight surgeon, what are the chances that somebody even survives that type of episode that's prolonged, and the blood loss had to be phenomenal?
Well, first of all, the ability to fight through that blood loss is because of his intestinal fortitude. I know a lot of guys. I've only worked with one Medal of Honor recipient. We lost him in Afghanistan. It was Rob Miller from my group. I was a third group guy, and but there's a certain character, there's a certain type of person that just does this because he's doing it selfless, not selfish, selflessly. And so that person, when they get all on the X, and I've been on the X numerous times, picking up guys, putting them on the birds, taking them out. Sometimes I'm a little too far forward. The generals used to get mad at me because they say, "Doc, why are you out there on the X?" And I would say, "Because that's where the patients are, sir." And so when you get these guys and you throw them on the bird and you jump in with them and you've seen them do something. Now, the only thing that I was involved in that ever it rose to the level of a silver star, right? It was on an objective I was on. So, and that kid ended up getting it and he survived it. But what I've seen here, what I've read here, and what I know here is this is way above and beyond that call of duty, way above and beyond. So I'm signed on. I'm going to be hitting the hill as well. I had to do like you, Bull, your penance up on the hill. I had to work up there during the a different administration when I was assigned as a liaison to the Speaker of the House, and I hated every day of it. I swore I'd never go back, but I will on this case go back and help to lobby because I do know a few of those folks walking up and down those hills. I got a working dog myself there, Major, and he's with me everywhere I go. Right? I picked him up downrange, and he's just a great dog. He's been with me on the border down here in Texas fighting, this border invasion. And when I walk down on the hill there with this dog, people want to talk to you. They don't remember me, but they remember the dog. Right? All right. Yeah. So I'm going to take him back to DC, and we're going to go up there and start lobbying some of these knuckleheads. They're not all knuckleheads, but the majority of them. We got to get past their staffers, because their staffers are the one that go, "What's a Medal of Honor, man?" I'm like, "Come on, man, stop it. Just stop it before I slap you. Right? I will throat punch you right now." Anyway, so I'm in your corner, sir. And I'll be here.
Thank you so much.
Roger that.
Really appreciate it. What's the name of your dog?
His name is G.I. Joe officially, but he is Joe.
That's a true story.
Good job. Thank you.
That's awesome.
So before I go to Bill, Major Capers, I don't even know if this is an appropriate question or not, but what was going through your mind while you were being attacked and your men were on the chopper, but the chopper couldn't get off the ground?
Survival of my men. We've been there for a long time, and together we trained together, came to Vietnam together, and was on my mind is killing as many as I could, and we did that. Unfortunately, many of them are gone today. There's only 3 of us still left alive.
Wow, that's incredible. You can't comprehend the level of heroism, Major, and thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Major Capers, how old are you today?
How old am I today? I'm 87 years old.
Oh, man. Well, I'm a year and a half. I'm a year and a half behind you.
Okay.
I thought when we got past 50, we stopped doing half years.
When you get over 85, the world changes when you get over 85. That's for sure.
Well, that's crazy. So,
you
Bill,
guys are a great group. I'm proud of you. Your dedication, the support, and my godson Bull, he gave you a great idea what it was like for a lieutenant like me back in those days.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't really a lieutenant. I got commissioned because all the other officers were killed first 3 months.
Yeah.
So I went from staff sergeant to lieutenant and took it all the way through the war. But I want to thank you guys for what you're doing. It means so much to you and to me. I had a wife at one time and a son. They're all gone now. So you, the family, you are the family that I have today. And it warms my heart to talk to you and see you in person and hear some of the lies that I know are being told today, which is so much fun.
Fabricated stories, Jim. It's just fabrications.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And
David, what do we have to do now to move forward?
That's a good question. And so, there's really a three-pronged attack right now that we're focused on. One is getting the attention out here. And this is where podcasts like this are so important. We're on the Sean Ryan show. We've been on Fox News, trying to make sure people realize the situation. The second piece is trying to make sure that the behind-the-scenes DOD piece, well, we could talk this. The second piece is making sure that Congress understands what they have to do. And we had Congressman Norman. He's been a staunch supporter for many years. And this letter went to President Trump with 47 congressmen, including 6 senators, raising awareness to make sure that the president is aware of this. And we're pretty confident the president, I'm 100% confident the president will award Major Capers the Medal of Honor once he's cleared hot. And by cleared hot, that means Congress has to pass a standalone bill to waive an administrative 5-year statute of limitations that's tied to the Medal of Honor. And I'm confident we'll get that through. It's happened before for other Medal of Honor recipients, but we have to make sure Congress gets on board. So the third part is making sure that we have the Department of Defense on board. And there's just a litany of administrative issues that stood in the way of Major Capers receiving the Medal of Honor, to include a det commander, det officer in charge of 3rd Force Reconnaissance Company, who came in 3 days after the Phu Loc situation, or I should say 3 days before, wasn't aware of Capers' heroism nor General Hochmuth's intent, and ended up writing an end of tour award for Major Capers, which was a Bronze Star with the Combat V. And so all of a sudden, he already got awarded. And it's like, all right, let's stop being ridiculous. And so we had to restructure that, and then hunting down the former commanders, and there had to be the commander who was in place at the time. That took years to identify. And even prior to that, most of Capers' missions were classified up until 2006. So there couldn't even have been a full review of Major Capers' actions until 2006. And that's what started the whole process under Major General Williams, who was the commanding general of 2nd Marine Division at the time. From there, it just hit one administrative roadblock after the other, identifying witnesses. One witness who was there at Phu Loc didn't want to relive the situation. And it took a while to get this reclusive Marine to come out and actually write a statement. But now you've got all the statements. You've got the commander's endorsements all the way through, from the Det OIC through the battalion XO, the battalion CO. And then all of a sudden it goes to an awards board. And for some reason, it went into the awards board with a recommendation for the Medal of Honor. And it came out the back end saying, yes, we're going to upgrade the Bronze Star to a Silver Star. But there's never been an explanation. Who or what countered the commander's recommendation and these witness statements? And so then there's all these bureaucratic hurdles where it's been elevated to the Navy Board of Corrections, to Secretary Austin, to Secretary Del Toro, and they keep coming back saying, oh, well, it is what it is. And there's no new information. But the reality is we've got to be able to get some transparency on this awards board. And unfortunately, as best we could tell, there were no minutes kept of that awards board. And that's the challenge. So we don't know who was on the awards board. We don't know what was discussed. We don't know what witness statements were reviewed. And so until that gets opened up, it's kind of hard for the Marine Corps to come out and support this. However, it was our understanding that General Berger, at one time, he actually came out and said, comment on Marine Corps at the time, that, yes, I support this, and apparently had a conversation with Major Capers. However, it somehow got overruled at Secretary of the Navy level. So this is where making sure we've got the Department of Defense, and specifically the Marine Corps, supporting this. We have Congress and the president supporting this, and then finally making sure the public understands what's going on here so they get behind Major Capers to ensure that he receives this award in a timely manner.
So, Bull, I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you or not, but Bill is an attorney, a practicing attorney, partner in his law firm. And he was a key component to getting Pete Hegseth confirmed. Bill, I want to hear your thoughts on all of this bureaucratic red tape and your thoughts on how does this get fixed? Is there anything that's not being done currently to fix this that you could offer for advice?
Well, number one, I think it's extremely important for our nation and the history of our nation to learn about and recognize our great American warriors, our leaders who stepped up in combat. And there's a lot of beautiful American warriors on this panel right now. And Major Capers, I salute you and your sacrifice, leadership, and service to our great nation. I think the first thing is what you guys are doing is, you're getting the word out. And, I was talking to Will here, who is a survivor for 9/11, and he told me that, only 14 states teach about 9/11. And I think it's the same type of issue here where we got to stand up. It's for our country. It's for the record of the history of our country. And, one of the things I think it's beautiful about Major Capers is, one, he loves this country and the way he rose up for his men. The way he rose up for his men. If there's multiple occasions where he rose up, put his life at line, and made hard decisions for his men. He initiated, when you're in an ambush, there's only one way out, through it. And he rose up, got his men to rise up, to go through it. I mean, the type of leadership that takes, the type of sacrifice, commitment, and love. I mean, there's no greater form of leadership under combat than that. And I think it's extremely important. I love how the warfighter communities is rising around Major Capers. Sean Ryan's a friend of mine. I watched that podcast. I'm very grateful that he used his powerful, spotlight to do that. Look, I'm going to support this any which way I can. I'll make sure the Secretary of Defense gets word of this. And you got my word on that.
Great.
God bless you, Bill. Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
it's an honor, sir. It's an honor. Thank you for what you've done for our nation.
I think Bill's kind of like Donald Trump. He doesn't sleep. The guy goes nonstop. It's crazy. But
listen, for a guy who served on SEAL Team 6, sleep is a 4-letter word. Who the hell sleeps in SEAL Team
8, not 6?
Oh, all right, so you get 2 hours of sleep.
It was a typo on my part, but Bill led the charge for Pete Hegseth, and there were reporters from, I don't know what you want to call them, liberal newspapers, and they took a picture of Bill talking to a couple officers on Capitol Hill and made it out like there was like some confrontation and everything. There was no confrontation. It's just it's amazing how much our media will slight our heroes like that. And, I don't have any conspiracy theories on why Major Capers hasn't been awarded, but it seems to me like that's an example the government needs to get out of their own way. That's all I can come up with there. I got a quick question for you, Major, before we let you go. And there's a picture I see has been in a lot of articles on you right there. Can you tell us a little bit about that picture? And for those of you watching on your phone at home, this is Major Capers in the right hand bottom corner.
That's my team, Broad-Minded. That's their name, and that's the team I trained before we went to Vietnam, stopped off at Okinawa.
Were these
in my lifetime, those were the bravest and most loyal military men I've ever seen. And today, there's only 3 of us still left alive. But they ran a lot of missions with me and a lot of injuries. And I don't know what else I can say about Team Broad-Minded that hadn't been already said.
Were these heroes with you that day in Fulak?
Right, in Fulak.
Yeah, were these heroes with you during that?
Yeah, they were there in Fulak.
Okay.
And that mission is, Bull's already talked about it. Those were brave Marines. They fought and fought and fought. We ran out of ammunition the second day.
Unbelievable.
Helicopter came in and resupplied us with grenades and no food. Normally we ate one meal a day, if that. We survived with the bugs and snakes and whatever. And they didn't think about those types of things.
Yeah.
Wonderful group of Marines. They followed me when I was a staff sergeant. When I got commissioned, they were there and took me to the club and got me drunk. I was now a lieutenant, which lieutenants don't know anything. I didn't went to the schools for OCS or for those types of training, you know. And as a young man, I was born on a cotton farm. And I was there yesterday, which I'll be moving there hopefully not too long from now. That's my background. And
what state was that, Major? What state was that? What state?
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
A little town called Bishopville, South Carolina. And my entire family is gone now. I had a wife and a child. You know, they're all gone now. I never remarried. I live by myself. And the friends who put this together, they look after me now. They take care of the old man.
Great.
You know, and I appreciate you, the warriors that I'm talking to right about now. I know a lot of this is hard to talk about you, and I do appreciate it so much. You're the family now that I don't, well, you are my family, and I appreciate it so much. You've taken so much time and my godson, Bull, it's important to me to keep me going. This summer, I'll turn 88 years old. I fought 2 wars. I spent tours in the hospitals. I watched men die on battlefields. But I'm alone now, not really alone, because talking to you makes me feel like I'm part of a family.
Right.
You're funny. I know a lot of it is something that pains you, but I do appreciate it so much. It makes my life a lot easier. So thank you very much. And I'm always available. If you need me, give me a call. And, you know, I'm the old warrior now. And I'm on the way out. But as long as I can be of value to you or to your commitment, please let me know. And I
Major, I'm going to
send
up.
I won't take up any of your time.
I'm going to send up a flare. I'm the lead SEAL at the New York City SEAL Swim. It's an epic event. And
you can do.
We're giving love to the Vietnam veterans. We're wearing tiger stripes on our shorts to give love to you guys. All you guys are invited to come speak. We'd be honored to have you with us. We love our Vietnam vets.
That's
well, you know,
it's August 16th. It's August 16th.
I thank you for that.
I'll send
when
you.
We came home. We didn't get the flags. We didn't get the flags when we came home. No,
I'll tell you what, we got some big flags for you if you come to this event.
So much.
Fox News covers it every year. We'd love to have you.
Okay.
All of you gentlemen.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
God bless you.
Likewise, Major.
Thank you, everybody, what you're doing.
Bull, I'm going to turn it back over to you for final thoughts, some action items for people, but everybody else is welcome to add some comments as well. General, after Bull goes, I really like to hear your firsthand comments on just how brutal Vietnam was in the pouring rain and not exactly optimum conditions. But Bull, I'll turn it back over to you here.
You've done a good job. Thank you.
Thank you,
Holding
sir.
this group together.
Bull, I'm not sure if your audio is working or not, but trying to turn over the reins back to you to bring us through the home stretch. I'm thinking we got an audio problem with Bull. So before we do that, General.
I'll tell you what, I'm glad my nickname's not Bull, because you know what comes with the rest of that.
That's not the first time I've heard that.
Okay, now that you're back, Bull, I want to turn it over to you for final thoughts, what people can do to help this cause, and then I'll give the other three gentlemen the opportunity for final words as well. But go ahead, Bull.
So we're hearing you.
Yeah.
Well, let's just all make it happen, Chris. We got to make it happen. So that's what it's all about. That's the end game here. Make it happen.
100%. So since you're speaking, General, go ahead and tell us, how brutal the conditions were in Vietnam. And yeah, we're going to get the word out to as many people as we can.
Well, as James knows, the introduction, as I said, I went from Germany to Vietnam, and we landed in Quy Nhon, which is several hundred kilometers south of Phu Bai, where the Marines were. But during that time, we were on sea rations, Jim, for about 90 days over there. They didn't have kitchens set up. We didn't have B rations, and they were the old C rations from World War II in Korea. They got out of the warehouses, and that's what we were on. And I remember one day after that, we had a helicopter come in with ice cream, and we were on a mission way out in the province, and this helicopter comes in with ice cream. It was just great. But, the bugs, the snakes, tigers up in the highlands that we had, elephants, in the jungle and so on. And I remember, Jim, a quick story, my Special Forces buddy, Brigadier General Joe Stringham, who was the head of the Ranger Association, he was given the mission to go in after the first B-52 strike, which was up in the highlands. And I happened to be in a helicopter with my boss, who was a 3-star general. Here comes these B-52s in from Guam, laying this carpet of bombs down in the desert. And so Captain Stringham at the time was asked by General Westmoreland to go in for an after-action report. So he takes his Special Forces team into the jungle. All they found were 10 dead monkeys. No Viet Cong, no enemy, nothing. Out of that whole area, all those bombs, B-52, got 10 dead monkeys. But, we all had conditions. My last, Jim, I'll just tell you, I had a hand grenade thrown in on me about 2 o'clock in the morning on my head, and it never went off.
Wow.
So you wonder sometimes why God has saved certain people when your comrades have been killed and wounded and so on. But it's with you all the time, because when you're going out on these patrols and missions, you always come back with some wounded, some dead. And I can remember the worst situation, Jim, when the old Caribous, if you remember those twin-engine Army airplanes before they turned them over to the Air Force, they gave me the mission to go down with 18 bodies that we had lost that day in the 101st, to fly them from the aid station out in body bags, basically, to be sent back to the United States. And I remember that to this day. And I saw them laid out on the ground next to these, I guess they were plastic body bags then. I can't even remember. But before they put them in the body bags, they had them all laid out. And I'll tell you what, I was 25, 26 years old at the time. That was just, I couldn't believe it. Here they were fighting. We were buddies that maybe having a beer the day before. Now they're laying there next to a body bag. But those are a lot of memories. And as many of you know us from Vietnam, we don't like to talk about it too much because it brings back a lot of heartache. And but anyhow, what Jim went through over there, through those jungles and trying to fight, ambushes could come from anywhere, anytime. In the Viet Cong, Jim, you remember they're great at digging. They'd dig these holes, and they put a grass mat over it, and they'd pop up out of the holes and start shooting. It was just unbelievable, the warfare over there. So, but anyhow, that's about all I want to say. I could tell a lot of stories, but that's enough.
No, I appreciate that input. So, Doc Pete, do you want to tell me about the one combat deployment you did to Vietnam?
No, I ain't that old. Ain't that old.
There's only a few years difference between us here.
No, I came in '83, so they were jumping into Grenada while I was sitting there at Fort Benning at jump school, and I'm like, man, I guess I missed that one. Well, you beware of what you wish for, right? So 9/11 happens, and I come back in. I got out for a short time, and then here we are. This ought to be over quick in Afghanistan. Well, 20 years later, here we are. But hey, it is what it is, right? And you, sir, Major Capers, there's a building that sits not too far from me. It's called the Alamo. And inside that Alamo on February 24th, 1823, the William Barrett Travis wrote a letter. He said, I'm asking for all Americans to come to our aid with all dispatch. But he said, with everything that's dear to the American character. I wrote that thing in all the freaking countries I've been to on the wall where I was, that letter, because it means something. You were, when you're surrounded like that, you're in the Alamo. And it is up to you and your men, those side by side. And you exhibited what's called the American character. So whatever it takes, look, I'm not that far from Austin. I'll go meet Elon and say, hey, we need to get the Doge people on this to fix these freaking bureaucrats so we can get this thing going. Get their head out of their backside.
I'm afraid that I don't have a whole lot of value to bring to this conversation because I didn't serve, but I will tell you that I was doing some consulting for Mercedes in North Carolina, and their engineers in Germany have to do a year or two of practical experience in a production facility. And two of them called me and they said, hey, we're going to be driving down to the Keys. Would you like to have lunch together tomorrow? And I said, sure. So they stopped in for lunch and they proceeded to tell me all these things about America. We didn't expect America to be X, Y, and Z. And I said, well, it's not. And they said, yeah, it is. We've been here for 6 months. I said, no, you're talking like the general area around Raleigh, Durham. We're the United States of America. Each state has its own unique culture. And they said, well, there has to be one thing that ties Americans together. And I didn't hesitate. I said, yeah, leadership. And they took offense to it. They were like, well, we have great leaders in Germany too. And I said, well, I'm sure that you do. But I said, have you watched little American children playing football? And they said, yeah. I said, well, at that age, one player reaches a hand out to help somebody else up. In that moment in time, they are displaying leadership because we pounded into their heads, even though they don't have the captain's jersey on. And I said, look, when you all get back to Germany, and this was 20 years ago, so there were still veterans from World War II around. I said, I would encourage you to ask German veterans what they thought of fighting against the Americans in World War II. And I got an email back from them about 6 months later, and they said, yeah, we found a vet and we asked him, and he said that the Germans hated fighting Americans because their typical way that they would wage war they'd go after a leader, whether it's at the squad level or way above that, and the other side would typically fold. And in his email, this guy said, the vet told us that never happened with the Americans. We'd kill the leader and somebody else would assume the leadership role, and they just kept on coming. They never backed off. So just leadership is the thing that always comes to my mind. These types of scenarios, I don't know anybody who's displayed that better than Major Capers. Bull, now that you're back, do you have any parting thoughts? And then final word goes to you, Bill Brown.
Thank you. I apologize. We were having some technical difficulties on this end. But first of all, thank you so much for having me on. Thank you so much for all the support. Major Capers has been surrounded by a ton of great people who are well-intentioned, trying to make things happen. And I think I appreciate you pulling this up. This is a petition we have on our website. And right now we've got a few thousand people who've signed on, but we're trying to get 50 to 100,000. And I don't think that that's a ridiculous ask, considering all the people who constantly are saying, well, we hope he gets it. All right. Well, as everybody on this podcast knows, hope is not a viable course of action, and getting people to actually take action, whether it be minimally try to, get out here, sign the petition, to providing financial support for this battle. We've had Frank Roberts, an individual close friend, who's put out thousands of dollars. I've personally put out thousands of dollars. I don't get a dime from any of this. All the money is going towards supporting Major Capers, and we try to get as much people who have influence to talk to other people, to understand what's going on. And the more we find out, the more we realize that this is a terrible injustice, and it's necessary for America to recognize this incredible warrior, this incredible family man, husband. He really sets the gold standard, and it's why he must be recognized.
Thank you, Bull. Appreciate that very much. And I don't know if anybody in the audience knows this, but we sure could use a producer at Survival Dispatch. I say that because a lot of work to manage everything. I forgot to share General Vallely's Substack. So pauleVallely.substack.com. I'll throw a link out there for y'all too. I already put it in the live chat. And I missed Doc Pete's Remnant Ministry, and they have several lines of effort. He mentioned border operations. So while Brandon was in the office, Doc Pete and Joe, his dog, were gathering intel on the border, relaying it back to Texas DPS, directly involved in child sex trafficking interdiction, and was part of the first group of people to help North Carolinians in West North Carolina after Hurricane Helene, and also is playing a role in deportations. So, Bill, final word to you. And I actually remember to pull your page up for the New York SEAL swim. Go ahead, Bill.
I think this is beautiful on a couple different levels. One, it kind of reminds me of the veterans advocacy for Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense, where here you have veterans that are rallying behind and supporting another veteran, war fighters supporting war fighters. And if we don't look out for each other, nobody will. And it's funny, right next to me is Will, who's one of the only survivors of the World Trade Center, was buried under the World Trade Center, and he had his brothers and FDNY and PAPD come and rescue him. Like, they didn't give up on him. And that, when I look at the beautiful stories, like Major Capers, that's what he did for his men, right? He did everything he could for his men when it wasn't easy, when everything was on the line. And I think it's so important for our nation to hear these stories. It's a beautiful thing. And when you talk about leadership, when you talk about what makes our military the most lethal fighting force that's ever existed, it's that.
Major,
can I get one save round here?
Oh, I just wanted to say one thing, if I could, Major Capers. I want you to know that as a young kid that came from Colombia, South America, I came to this country at 2 years old. And again, like I said previously, I was inspired by the stories that I grew up when there was only like 5 or 6 channels, the black and white movies. But sir, you are a national treasure. And I think, and this comes from my heart, that everybody that's involved in this, and I'm going to be pushing you as well as when I do speaking engagements to people, let them know why you're a national treasure. And I'm going to say this as a minority, being Hispanic, you as an African-American, your story from cotton fields to defending freedom, which means so much to me. What you did that day shows, and what we need to show our future generations, is that we're not black, we're not white, we're not Hispanic, we're Americans. We bleed red and white and blue. And I tell everybody, that's why I have a problem with people kneeling to the flag. That's okay. We're not perfect, but any of us that have traveled outside this country understand how good our generations here have it because of men like all of you here who have fought, bled, and suffered for our freedoms. And I just hope that, and I believe that President Trump will see this, because you, sir, are a national treasure that needs to be something that is pushed into all our communities to show people this is what a true American is, who came from the cotton fields of South Carolina, one of the most racist states in the country. Beautiful state, but let's be honest here. That was the core of racism, who has come and has exemplified what it means to be an American, what it means to be a warrior. Sir, what you did on that day and how you fought is what allowed me as an immigrant of this country to serve. And sir, I just want you to understand that you are my hero and you will never be forgotten. And I will always talk about you. And I hope that you do receive that Medal of Honor, because you are the example we need today. If I could get a young producer on TikTok, because that's what they use today, right? We're all old. We don't get old. All that social media. You are someone that should be shown to the young generation and let them understand why freedom is not free. I just want to say, God bless you, sir. You're a hero to me as a 9/11 survivor who unfortunately had to see the worst attack in U.S. history on U.S. soil. Men like you what inspired me to continue to fight when I was buried alive for 13 hours. God bless you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. Well, there's not anything that I can say near as eloquently as that, other than to say thank you, all of you, for everything that you've done for our country. You just can't express how grateful the rest of us are. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. I've got a short message, and then I will be back with chapter 2. And unfortunately, y'all are going to lose the rest of these amazing men. Thanks again, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Chris. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Pete, I'll get back with you.
All right, and I am back with an amazing group of American heroes. Truly blessed to have them on the show tonight. I've got a couple links I'm going to throw into the live chat here that we didn't have time to go through, but I think are important for everybody. This one here, thevetsproject.com, is a very, very long read. If you look at my cursor over here, you'll see how small the bar is. This tells Major Capers' story better than any other article out there. So I'm going to start putting that in the chat here, which will get blasted out to 8 different platforms that we're broadcasting to tonight. If you don't get it by chance, you can always reach me at support@survivaldispatch.com. If you're an insider, you can go download the SITREP for tonight. Has all of these links in it. But what a phenomenal article. And if you notice on the side, I haven't even come down 25% of the page. There's another article over here written by the guys at one of the coffee companies out there. And either way, the title of this really caught my attention. The Legend of Jim Capers, the Hero Who Never Was. And can't tell why. I have no idea why that he was snubbed by the Biden admin. I did hear some rumors as I investigated this, but I'm not going to repeat them because they're unproven. But either way, Major Capers deserves an incredible amount of praise and recognition for what he did for the other men on his team. There's another article here on Ask a Marine, the inspiring story of the first black man on recruitment posters. And again, anybody who's 35 plus years old saw that poster at some point in time while we were growing up. The next one is the UAP.org. So this is a bull. Nobody knows David by any name but Bull. So we've got to say Bull so that people actually know who we're talking about. But there's a page on here specific to Major Capers. And this page here is where you can join the petition. You can donate money if you scroll down a little bit further. Incredible story as far as that's concerned. And then, of course, Bill Brown, New York SEAL Swim, General Vallely's Substack, and Doc Pete's show. So I will cover all of those when a video is playing, and I'll get them to you in the chat. But before then, we'll jump right into chapter 2 now. So we've been hammering away at Judge Boasberg, and it's one, crazy thing after another, right? So this guy, hardcore anti-Trumper, daughter who has made a lot of money from NGOs that were benefiting from USAID money. It gets even worse. This guy has a connection to Ray Epps. So Ray Epps being the FBI plant who essentially on January the 6th, 2021, was herding people into areas, telling them to go do this and go do that. I mean, he was a provocateur, an agent provocateur, whatever you want to call him. But lo and behold, here we are. Judge Boasberg has a connection to him. So this is a thread here from Wyatt. And again, if you grab our sit rep from patreon.com/survival dispatch, it's $9.99 a month or $95 a year. So you get 2.5 months for free if you pay all at once. All of these links, everything is in every situation report, and I'll show you one before we wrap up. So moving down to post number 2 in this thread, James Boasberg was one of the deep state's go-to gavels. He's a loyal foot soldier in the lawfare machine he always delivers. And nowhere is that more obvious than in the case of the very mysterious character Ray Epps. So quick reminder here, by the way, cases are supposed to be randomly divided up amongst these federal district judges. And somehow, some way, Boasberg has been assigned almost every single anti-Trump case you can imagine. Even the Signal Gate debacle from last week all of a sudden just became part of his domain, above and beyond him. If you don't recognize his name, this is the guy who ordered the planes to turn around and bring the TDA, gang members back to America. So post number 3 in his thread, the connection between these two guys, Boasberg and Epps, should be of concern. It's one of the clearest, most flagrant displays of weaponized lawfare. Ray Epps is the guy urging people to go into the Capitol. Number 4. So the guy who helped lead the charge on January 6th and who somehow avoided the DOJ's obsession, with J6 prosecutions while peaceful protesters were dragged through the mud, ended up getting the lightest slap on the wrist from a deep state judge. Post number 5. After Epps was finally charged with a count of disorderly conduct, he was rewarded with a wrist slap from Boasberg, 1 year of probation. No jail, no gay lectures, no talk about mobs or responsibility, just a quiet walk out the back door. Number 6, compare that treatment to how Boasberg treated 2 people in October 2023 who were charged with nonviolent misdemeanors for simply being at the Capitol. Boasberg sentenced Christopher Price to 45 days in federal prison. Cynthia Bellinger, 4 months behind bars. The 7th point in this thread. Even worse, Boasberg scolded both of those people for lacking remorse and fighting everything as if pleading not guilty is a crime now. But for Epps, no lecture, no tough words, just a gentle pat on the back from one of the deep state's judges. Thread number 8. Also, let's not forget, this is the same Judge Boasberg who let FBI lawyer Kevin Kleinsmith off with no prison time after he falsified evidence to justify spying on Trump's campaign advisor during the Russian hoax. Number 9. Boasberg has a very clear pattern of going easy on the right people. Could it be because Judge Boasberg is a deep state judge? Just look back at August 2023 when he was spotted in the courtroom during President Trump's arraignment in D.C. There's actually more to that story, by the way. He was on vacation, and he bragged about coming home early from his vacation so that he could sit in that courtroom when Trump was arraigned. Point number 10. Now he's making great effort to protect due process rights of Venezuelan cartels while American citizens are in prison for the crime of protesting a rigged and stolen election. This is what so-called justice looks like. So, I mean, I don't know about everybody else out there, but it's a pretty crazy story of how he somehow, some way manages to get involved. And there are 676 federal district judges. How many are in his district? I haven't looked that up, so I can't tell you on that one. But it's too coincidental that he would get assigned to all of these things. It's virtually impossible on the odds with all the other judges that are available. So with that being said, we'll move on to the next story in chapter 2. And I touched on this last week, but breaking news, the British Sentencing Council has decided that starting tomorrow, white men will be sentenced to longer prison sentences than women and ethnic minorities. The UK has fallen. So in the UK, they have these sentencing reports that are done by a sentencing council. and then that information is passed on to a magistrate before sentencing is, determined. And their guidance now is that if you're anything but a white male, you're going to get all kinds of leniency. And we've already seen this happen over and over and over again in the UK in recent years, where you've got a Muslim from Pakistan rapes a 13-year-old, says that he didn't know it was against the law because it's okay in his culture, and they get 6 months of probation, no jail time. But if anybody else committed such a horrific crime, they'd lock them up for life and throw away the key, especially if it was a white guy. So it's absolutely astonishing what Britain is doing to themselves. They're essentially committing self-inflicted genocide. And I will add this, just because I was engaged in a recent back and forth on X with regards to this next topic, which is JD Vance pointed this out. I didn't pick this out on my own, that the UK will be the first Muslim country with ICBMs that carry nuclear warheads. So you may recall hearing Mike Sterling say, the biggest hurdle to overcome for people who have aspiring nuclear, arsenals like Iran, for example, or Korea, is being able to condense a nuclear warhead down far enough that they can stick on a missile that has the capability of going a really far distance. So Pakistan, for the most part, is a Muslim country. I know there's other religions there, but majority are Muslim. Their ICBMs with no payload are capable of going about 1,600 miles. And then if you were to add a nuclear warhead, that distance would be even less. So the UK being taken over by Muslims, many radical Muslims, is pretty scary because they have a lot of our technology in their arsenal. And, you can't take that intellectual property back. Once the cat's out of the bag, the cat's out of the bag. So I don't know. What's going on in the UK is pretty scary from my perspective. All right, moving on to the next story. A group in Madison, Wisconsin is reportedly going to attempt to make a citizen's arrest of Elon Musk. These people are not well. Minocqua Brewing Company. By the way, we've heard a group in Madison is going to attempt to make a citizen's arrest of Elon Musk for committing a felony for trying to bribe Wisconsinites to vote. Not true. Our judicial system refuses to stand up to Musk after our attorney general was dinged twice by a judge in Columbia County and then by the appeals court located in Dane County. When are judges going to learn that it's okay to appear partisan if the other side is breaking the law? Apparently not soon enough to keep our democracy. We've been asked to see if we can find a pair of handcuffs using our large platform. If anyone in Madison has handcuffs, please private message us. We'll attempt to get them to the right people. So I'm pretty sure if you tag fag_alerts, he can probably find somebody for you in that county who has such proclivities. Moving on to the next one from Libs of TikTok. 97% of American adults support deporting violent criminal illegal aliens. Don't believe the media and Democrats. Americans support deporting Tren Aragua terrorist gang members. These are pretty astonishing numbers when you have a look at them. So among U.S. adults who favor some deportations, nearly all say immigrants in the country illegally who have committed violent crimes should be deported. U.S. adults, with the question with regards to illegals who've committed violent crimes, 97%. U.S. born, 97%. Immigrant, 97%. White, 98%. Black, 93%. Hispanic, 95%. Asian, 96%. Ages 18 to 29, 94%. 30 to 49, 96%. 50 to 64 years old, 98%. 65 plus, 99%. And here's where it gets really interesting at the end. Republican or lean Republican, 97%. Democrat, lean Democrat, shock, 97%. So anything that you're seeing in the mainstream media that suggests otherwise is straight up propaganda. And you can tell it's propaganda because the Mockingbird media all end up reporting the exact same words verbatim over and over and over again. All right, moving on to the next one. This will show you how unbalanced people are on the other side. It's just, when I say other side, at Survival Dispatch, we are not Republicans. We are MAGA. We are libertarians, lowercase L. Republicans, Democrats, two different sides of the same coin. So you don't have to throw any hate at us for being Republican. We're not Republican. They're brutal. It's all political theater. So this is pretty crazy, right? These are the people who have hardcore TDS. Now they have hardcore Elon derangement syndrome. These are the people who have drank the Kool-Aid over and over again for these new Green Deal things and, electric vehicles, which actually have a worse impact on the environment than, gasoline fired engines. But here are these people in action. Minute and 20 seconds. I'm going to play the whole video.
Take a look at this. This is video from the victim's Tesla camera. It shows a green car pulling up to a Tesla on busy Route 66, then swerving in front to box the Tesla in. The driver then walks over to the 61-year-old woman in the Tesla and reportedly starts hitting her while she's sitting behind the wheel. At one point, the woman says she bit the man's hand. Moments later, the passenger of the green car appears to walk over and pull the attacker away. They finally get back in their car and drive off. We spoke to the victim today, who said she was terrified and can't understand why anyone would do this.
I was just stunned, and I wished that I would have had someone with me that would have protected me. I'm just appalled. I didn't buy my car for a political statement. I bought my car because it's really fun to drive, and my politics have nothing to do with that. And I'm ashamed of our society and what they're doing.
The victim, along with the other Tesla owner who received a threatening note and text, have both now signed up for a gun safety course at a gun range north of Flagstaff. They tell us they don't feel safe right now and want to be able to protect themselves.
Yeah, unbelievable. Highly unlikely that would happen in the South here, Florida or Texas, and without somebody getting high-speed lead poisoning. So moving on to the next one on the same topic, anti-Doge protest in Pasadena, California. Imagine wasting your weekend protesting the only department exposing government waste and corruption. Who's funding these clowns? Well, we know who's funding them. It's George Soros. 23 seconds. It's a short one. All right, enough of that nonsense. So on the same topic here, check this out. Tesla protester assaults Doge supporter, gets lesson on why fighting is a bad idea. And I won't read this and ruin it for you. We'll watch most of the video, not quite all of it.
Hey, sir, we have tiny dicks, and that's why we support this shit.
Okay. Bitch. Later on, this guy would claim he only knocked my hat off, which is clearly not the case.
Okay.
Bitch. Oh, poor Nona. She can't believe what she's seeing.
Shit.
I love this pause here. It's like ChatGPT thinking before it spits out an answer. I'm crawling all the data from my 8 years of YouTubing, my martial arts experience, trying to decide how to handle this thing artfully.
Oh, wow, that's not okay.
To quote King Theoden, so it begins.
Okay. Bitch. Oh, wow, that's not okay. Hey, you assaulting him, man. We got that shit on camera. Now you're gonna go down. It's gonna be a problem for you, man.
Jiu-jitsu is based on the idea that if your opponent is standing, he could put his whole body into a strike and generate enough force to knock you out. But once you get him down, it's over. He can no longer generate power with punches or kicks, or not any real power. I'm a brown belt, so it's possible one day I find myself on the ground with a black belt and I get out grappled. But as a rule, people who know how to fight don't start fights. Guys like this dude. Come on, man. This guy's biting me, dude. Dude, he hit me.
Don't touch him. Don't touch my boy.
But that's not going to stop me. The triangle's been my baby since at least 2008. If you want to, you could completely extinguish somebody's life with a triangle. But for a situation like this, it's nice too, because you can just put the guy on timeout.
My boy, let him do it. He's gonna put him to sleep. He's gonna put him to sleep.
Hey, he bit me. He's biting me, dude. He's biting me. That's triangle checkmate right there. That's not a fun place to be. This guy's pushing on his face, trying to free him. All these people had a primitive understanding that something bad was happening, so they're just trying to push and pull on various body parts, hoping to alleviate pressure. But I wasn't torquing this hard enough to actually put the guy to sleep. My plan was catch and release from the beginning. I'm on the gun. I'm not going to hurt him. I'm not going to hurt him. He did hit me. I know, it's definitely him.
It was him. We outside. He knocked his head off. No, he knocked his head off. You come on, don't lying, man. You're lying. Man.
What are you doing?
Wow. Just amazing. All right, moving on to the next one, which is still on this topic. Democrats paying Republicans to prevent other Democrats from vandalizing their property was not on my 2025 bingo card. 24 seconds.
Craziest thing ever, guys. Some guy just paid me $200 to watch a Tesla. So I'm going to sit here and keep guard, I guess. I got to keep point. $200 to watch the Tesla, so nobody fucked with it here at Costco. I'm at Costco, guys. See that? $200.
That's pretty crazy. All right, and the last story for chapter 2, I should say, is from Laura Loomer. Vladimir Putin's a limo blows up in massive explosion as car engulfed in huge fireball on Moscow street. So clearly this would be somebody on the Ukrainian side, probably not 100%, but probably trying to take out Vladimir Putin. And y'all know where we stand at Survival Dispatch. We're on neither side, Russia or Ukraine. We just want to get our stuff the hell out of there. Shut down the money laundering facility. Let them duke it out, whatever they want to do without us losing any of our military men and women. But I'm contemplating sometime this week actually looking at Ukraine's involvement with Ryan Routh in his attempt to kill Trump, as well as the connections that Matthew Crooks has had. And we've got very little information on that. And I have a feeling at the very least that Ryan Routh and whoever is tried to kill Putin here, which is not the first time, is probably one and the same if I had to bet. But I haven't solidified that 100%, but that's most likely going to be one of the topics that I cover this week. I'll be back, of course, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday evening tomorrow night. John Wheaton will be hosting. So that is it for chapter 2 tonight. We're getting ready to go into chapter 3 here in just a second. And again, just in case I hadn't mentioned it, it would be great to have a host, or I should say a producer. I do want to mention one thing. Usually tend to all of our smoke detectors when the clocks get changed, just because it's part of a habit. But I wanted to upgrade our smoke detectors, so they also have, for crying out loud, carbon monoxide testing as well. So these are the new ones that I'm fixing to install. The brand name is Sitterwell, Siterwell. Stay tuned for a report on these later this week. Hopefully they're better than the ones we're replacing. The ones I'm replacing are battery powered only. That's one of the reasons I got this, because it's AC plus battery. Because if a battery dies, we all know that a a smoke detector is going to go off at like 2 o'clock in the morning and won't shut up until you get out of bed. And if it's way high up on a wall or ceiling, then you got to go get a ladder in the middle of the night. I don't know how they always do it in the middle of the night, but that's the way it's always happened for me. So I'm hoping that this one doesn't behave like that. We'll know soon, and I'll let you all know if it ended up playing a part in our fire prevention or detection, I should say. All right, next one up. I couldn't remember if I showed this one or not. It's only 11 seconds, but I'm going to show it again because it came up in conversation. If I showed it before, I can't remember if I did or not, but this is pretty crazy. So you got an incident happening on the right-hand side of this road, interstate, whatever it is. And then you got a wrecker on the far side with a flatbed. And this is just crazy.
Good. At their last 10-50 rollover. Good. At their last 10-50 rollover.
That is absolutely brutal. First thing came to mind for me was Dukes of Hazzard. All right, next one up from Carolyn Levitt, Daily News Sharing. So this is not the real Carolyn Levitt. The Secret Service plans to fire DEI hired agents, but an Obama-appointed judge rules it illegal. Trump then assigns them to protect Clinton, Obama, and Biden, who reject them and demand merit-based males. I don't think this is true. I think this is parody, but even parody, it's kind of funny that somebody would even suggest this. I think it's funny. It's chapter 3. We're allowed to think anything's funny in chapter 3. All right, next one up. It's only a matter of time until an anti-Tesla lunatic kills someone for owning a Tesla or for supporting Tesla. It's only going to get worse. Remember all the leftists and the media that have encouraged this. 28 seconds.
We just learned that a 70-year-old man was arrested after Meridian police say he hit another man with his car during today's demonstrations at the Tesla dealership in Meridian. Police say 70-year-old Christopher Talbot of Meridian made an obscene gesture towards a counter-protester and then hit him with his car. Police say the victim had been driving a truck with pro-Trump flags and had just parked and gotten out of his car when Talbot hit him. The victim.
Can you imagine being 70 years old and so triggered by someone with an American flag and a MAGA flag that you assault them and get charged and processed for assaulting someone? That's a special kind of stupid right there. All right, next one up. I tried the Japanese method of decluttering where you hold every object you own, and if it doesn't bring you joy, you throw it away. So far, I've thrown out all the vegetables, the electric bill, my scales, a mirror, and my treadmill. Pretty comical. All right, next one up from James Woods. Democrats in their natural habitat.
Get off my fucking car! You touch that shit again, I will break your fucking face! Okay, come on, bring it on! Bring it on! Fucking Nazi! Fuck you! Nazi! Go fuck yourself! I love you! You! Or a shame! 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 If you only saw it.
I feel very, very sorry for you. You're just a little man. Little man. You know what?
We need you out of the road, please.
I don't know what to say. Just wow. All right. Accountability matters. It's wild to see people who robbed us blind trying to justify being upset at us for catching them. That's a mouthful right there. And going back to Great Britain, this lady's courage is awesome. She's not scared to defend her roots. Imagine if more people were like her. I love her facial expressions at the end of this, by the way. 18 seconds.
Why are we scared of standing up for our own culture? You know, I'm a Christian. Why am I not allowed to say I'm a Christian? Because I offend someone. Well, a lot of people offend me.
That's the truth. Facial expression was golden there. All right, next one up. Trump with Doge is saving you money big time. This money wasn't misplaced. It was laundered, stolen, distributed to all the illegal immigrants who came into our country. I caught a press conference this afternoon in the Oval Office, and Donald Trump said that one of his guys is projecting $5 trillion in federal income from tariffs over the course of the next 2 months. It's a big number. That would double the receipts of our federal government. It typically takes in like 5.2 trillion a year, something along those lines. Be interesting to see how that unfolds. All right, here we go. 1 minute, 37 seconds.
Hello, my fellow overtaxed citizens. Here's today's daily update. This report comes straight from the GAO, or Government Accountability Office. And as always, there's a link in my bio so you can read it for yourself. Brace yourselves. The government accidentally lost $236 billion last year. You paid your taxes on time. However, the government lost $236 billion just by accident. That's not a joke. It's the official report from the GAO itself. Last year alone, $236 billion in taxpayer money was classified as improper payments. Translation, they overpaid, double paid, or sent your money to the wrong people, and they just blew it off like no big deal. Some of it was fraud, some of it was bad math, and some of it was just pure, straight laziness. And all of that was your money. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars just gone into thin air. So let's put it into context. $236 billion is more than the entire military budget of Russia, enough to fund Social Security for a full year for 40 million retirees. Or if you prefer, we could buy 1.2 billion reheatable Pentagon coffee mugs. Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, is pushing hard to identify and eliminate this kind of fraud, waste, and abuse before another dollar goes out the door. And the previous administration wanted you to think the IRS needed more money and more power. They audited small business owners while literally losing $250 billion in sloppy accounting. No one got fired, no one was arrested, and no one from the previous administration is even embarrassed one bit. What do you think should happen to federal agencies that consistently waste taxpayer dollars through fraud, corruption, waste, and abuse?
Yeah, I think they should be charged, tried, convicted, and pay a penalty for it. All right, next one up. Steve Harvey's pretty funny in this one. It's 1 minute and 36 seconds. I may or may not play the whole thing. I'll play enough that you get the gist of it.
Hey, Steve.
Hey.
So for my fresh start, I want to move to Sweden.
Huh?
You know, I want to move to Sweden.
Oh, okay.
You know, the land of IKEA.
You want to make a fresh start there?
I do. I want to move to Sweden. I just want to pick up my boys, my husband, and get the heck out of here. My husband thinks I'm nuts, though, because we have IKEA here in America. However, what we don't have here is free healthcare, free education, and Swedes live a very long life. Can you please help me convince my husband to get on board and move to Sweden, the land of IKEA?
Wait a minute. IKEA, the furniture store?
Mm-hmm.
You talking about the stuff where you got to put all the stuff together?
Mm-hmm.
Hell, that's why they probably got free health care over there. Because everybody done hurt themselves putting all them damn tables together.
We can stop it there. Everybody hurt themselves putting all that damn furniture together. All right. DJ Daniel has just 86 agencies left to go to reach his goal of being sworn into 1,000 agencies to make it to the Guinness Book of World Records. Way to go, DJ. And if you didn't already have this kid in your heart, you better make room, because this quote is everything. I'll keep going until my gas tank runs out, and that's when God calls you home, Daniel said. The craziest thing is, on my 11th brain surgery, God told me I was one of his angels, and I'm doing God's work. On my 12th brain surgery, he gave me my wings, but told me I'm going to take these back until you graduate this school called life. I'm not crying, you're crying. Images, DJ being sworn in by wildly popular Sheriff Grady Judd in Polk County, Florida. I mentioned that on Friday. Grady Judd is, golly, they broke the mold when they made him. He is something else. All right, here's something else on the opposite end of the equation from our friend Retard Finder. This is peak retardation. Look, you know, what the fuck? Why does the guy put his arms out like this? Like he actually did something earth shattering. These people are fucked. Quite literally. All right. The next one is somebody trying to make fun of JD Vance and President Trump. I'll only play a little bit of it, but it is kind of comical at the beginning, at least. This would be the one and only meme I've ever seen from the laugh that has a little bit of humor to it. But that's all we're going to play. All right, next one up. This is pretty cool. Friction welding. 1 minute, 1 second. That's a pretty cool video. All right, next one up. Our educational system has truly failed. This is ridiculous. 1 minute, 22 seconds. And this is seriously ridiculous.
Do you know what country Hawaii is in?
Hawaii is a country, right? Yeah.
Yes. No, like, do you know what country it's in?
Hawaii is a town? Like, I thought the whole state of Hawaii was... Wait, what the fuck? Is Hawaii a state or a country? Hawaii...
It's a state. It's a state.
Hawaii's a state?
Yeah, so what country is it in?
What? Hawaii's a country? Are y'all playing with me right now? I don't know. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know. Sir.
Do you know who the current vice president is? No. Do you know what we call a shape that has 5 sides?
A hexagon? No?
Yes. What country is the Panama Canal in? Italy. Yes. Do you know what 77 plus 23 is?
You said 77 plus 23?
Yeah.
Ah, shit, man. That's a
Around what?
question,
Around
bro.
what? Give me a number.
Nope, we got a pause in the video there. Not sure why that stopped. But we'll move on to the next one here. Islamic prayers. That's about it. And next one after that, 4004 BC to 2020 AD, 2 genders. 2021 AD to 2024 AD, 73 genders. They're missing a digit. I think it was like 373. Presently, we are now back to 2 genders, just in case y'all are trying to keep score and this sort of stuff. All right, next one up, the Trump effect. Lazy, illegal alien influencer who coached other invaders on how to take over homes and invoke squatters' rights, deported to communist Venezuela. the freeloading illegal alien influencer who last year pushed other invaders to seize American homes, has been sent back to his Marxist place of birth. The New York Post reported Friday that Lionel Moreno was sent back to Venezuela this week after President Trump struck a deal to resume deportation flights to the country. No need to read the rest of it, but that's the asshole in question right there. I would say that pretty much everybody is familiar with him, how he called Americans stupid, and he waved a bunch of $100 bills to show how he was ripping us off, and how he made his social media posts and was sitting around doing nothing other than being a fresh air inspector and collecting money. So there you have it. He's gone. And I would imagine if he comes back, he's pretty recognizable that he will be gone again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the next leadership of the Democrat Party. So voters overwhelmingly rejected Kamala and Tim Walz, but Tim Walz thinks that he has something to offer and that people are actually going to vote for him because they didn't go woke enough during the last election. He's on record as saying this, that they should have pushed harder, gone more woke, and they would have succeeded in beating Donald Trump. Yeah, okay. And then you got Beto, who's just an absolute fucking weirdo. Here's something if you don't know Beto at all, or Beto, whatever the hell you want to call him. He's not Spanish at all or Mexican at all, by the way. He's white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, but he goes by his Beto handle so that people will think that he's Hispanic. Not too many years ago, he decided to trick his wife by taking his excrement and putting it in a bowl and watching her take a bite of it before he told her what it was. He disguised it with other stuff. This guy is like seriously fucked in the head. And so is anybody who votes for him. So speaking of being fucked in the head, here you go. Retard Finder says this is the evolution of a retard. Yeah, goofy looking dude dressed up as a woman. It's about the only way to describe it. All right, last one up, and this one's pretty good. So many laugh out loud moments. Punching the TV takes the win. 1 minute, 2 seconds.
No!
No!
Oh, shit.
No! Well, this is the thanks I get. I come home to this. He literally ate the door.
Oh my God.
Oh, Nauset. What did you do?
Excuse me? What are you doing?
What have you done?
What did you do?
No. That is too funny. All right, so I've got one last message to share tonight from CCW Safe. We normally open with CCW Safe, but because we had Major Capers with us tonight, I wanted to play the preview of his movie. So I will be right back, about 30 some odd seconds.
If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
All right, so I won't bore you with too much on CCW Safe, but we love working with the guys at CCW Safe. One, because they share the same values as we do at Survival Dispatch. Two, they don't sell you insurance. Against the law to receive insurance benefits if you are in the midst of committing a crime. 95% of the time, defense attorneys will tell you to take a plea from the district attorney, even if you're not guilty, because it's a gamble. You go into the courtroom, you could face decades behind bars. So that's why 95% of the time people take a plea deal. And the second that you do that, you're admitting to breaking the law. The second you've admitted to breaking the law, your self-defense insurance company now has to take the money back from you, because they're not allowed to by law to pay out when people are committing crimes, which is why they have recoupment clauses that they then exercise. And they spent $400,000 defending you, and now you owe them $400,000. And you don't have a lawyer to defend you on appeal. You don't have an attorney to defend you for your civil rights lawsuit that's surely coming after the criminal one. And there's certainly not a penny left to pay out any judgments against you. CCW Safe does not sell you an insurance policy. They sell you membership benefits. So if you took a plea deal, they will still continue to defend you. If you get a judgment, a civil judgment, they'll pay out $1 million on your behalf. You can up it even higher than that for a slight increase in premium. And their best package is $47 per month. But if you're married, then your spouse gets covered automatically at no additional charge. $23.50 a month for the best coverage on the market, I'd say, is a pretty good deal. They also have annual plans available as well. There's a clickable link down below. We do not get any affiliate money for that. They do help us defray some expenses, though. And so the more traction we get for vendors like that, the more it helps us do what we do, which is spend countless hours researching and putting together podcasts, doing written articles, and all the other stuff that goes with it. All right, homework-wise, what can we do in light of tonight's topic with Major James Capers? All right, well, number one, you can look up your congressional reps at govtrack.us. There's a link in today's sit rep for this as well. Patreon.com. We'll cover that in a second. And you can find your congressional rep. You can find your senators here, and you can find all their contact information. So you can send them emails, snail mail letters. You can call their office and ask them to please do the right thing and get behind the movement for Major James Capers to be awarded the Medal of Honor before he passes away. As you could probably tell, he's getting on in his years, and it's this needs to happen fairly quickly is really what it boils down to. You can also go to uap.org, which is Bull's website, who was on earlier with us, and there's a page on Major James Capers Jr., and you can click here to learn more. Actually, I think this might be this is the petition itself. I apologize. So this page here is where you can sign the petition. But there's another page that I already sent out. It's also at the top of the video description, where you can donate time, money, whatever you possibly can. But we're running out of time. The clock's running out. It's time to do the right thing and get him recognized. The other 50 black ops ones, many of them are classified, but I was informed of a few of them earlier today, and that guy's a true American hero, no matter how you slice or dice it. All right, so patreon.com/survival dispatch, $9.99 a month to become an insider, or $95 a year. If you pay yearly, you get 2.5 months for free. You get our daily sit rep. I told you, if you had not seen one before, that I would show you what it looks like. So this is today's sit rep. And this is not even a huge sit rep compared to other days. So here we are at the top, and I'll step you through with commentary and links on everything and then some, everything that you see on screen and then some. And there's deals at the end. We've got some partners that we like to work with, so you get discounts by using those. We have restricted content down here at the end sometimes. Stuff that can't be put out on YouTube and Facebook in particular, Meta, I guess you could say. But that's it, $9.99 a month or $95 a year. Actually, it's not it. You get an invite to our Signal chat, which is super active, 24/7, 365, absolute ton of intel and information being shared there amongst like-minded individuals. So with that out of the way, we are into our conflicted question I haven't even had time to ponder this one today. I was wide open the entire day. Here's a hypothetical situation. Marcus, a former military medic turned off-grid homesteader, lives alone in a remote cabin with solar power, a well, and a year's worth of supplies. Months after a devastating EMP attack wipes out modern infrastructure. By the way, we have a link in our sit rep, and I think it might be in the video description tonight as well, where you get $50 off of everything from EMPshield.com using the link provided. He's managed to stay self-sufficient. One day while checking his perimeter, he finds a small group of survivors, 3 adults and a child, collapsed near his property, weak from hunger and exposure. They beg for help, claiming they've been on the run from a violent gang that's taken over a nearby town. Marcus has the skills and resources to nurse them back to health, but he's wary. They could be scouts for the gang, or their presence might attract danger to his carefully hidden retreat. He's built his life around solitude and independence, but he can't shake the memory of lives he couldn't save during his service. So the question is, and we want to hear your answers. I want to see your answers, whether it's in the live chat or in the comment section down below, or whether you email it to us at support@survivaldispatch.com. In a lawless world, is it morally defensible to turn away strangers who need aid to preserve your own safety and independence, even if you have the ability to help? Or does a past commitment to saving lives compel you to take the risk despite the potential threat to your survival? Where do you draw the line between personal security and the value of compassion? I don't know. Like I said, I didn't have a lot of time today. I had no time to ponder this, actually. My knee-jerk reaction would be is you got to help them. I wouldn't leave anybody in that type of condition. Now, whether or not I brought them back inside my compound is another story. But at the very least, if I have a year's worth of supplies, I would probably try to help those people get to somewhere that's a little bit safer. And I would give them some food and water to hopefully rest up and nurse themselves back to health. But I don't think I would let them in my house. I don't think I'd be able to sleep because of the risks that were mentioned during the question. But I'd love to see your answer to the question. And again, if you don't get it in the live chat, put it in the comment section below. And if you don't get it there, you're welcome to email support@survivaldispatch.com. Tomorrow night, John will be back Tuesday night. Tuesday nights are his. I will be back Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night. Until then, please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America. And enjoy the closing video. It's our most requested one.
In the darkness once again, unearthly violence with no end, power visions quietly storming, funds of fury downstream, our visions of no was put on hold. Now they've been told. In the sound of violence, it's not a dream, their lives are torn, blood flowing over dirt and stone. In the sight of a deadly drone, greenlit to fire innocence alone. And a mother and father must bury another son. The world's undone. In the sound of violence, then a shining light we saw, 100 million people strong, people screaming, just listen to me. the sound of violence, standing tall of histories, the Lord God ESA, and your faith restored its soaring, staring in the light, eyes are opening, and the light set the words of most loving tearing down the Pentagon walls, so they must fall. Let's see. Of